Hey there, my name is Renee Prince, and this is Amber, and we are clinicians, and we're herbal clinicians, but we're also traditional healers, and we're about to get into a discussion that we're like, this one needs to be recorded. So tonight we were out doing some homeless outreach work in Asheville, North Carolina, and we have been going out the past couple nights because we're having a cold spell, and we just have gone through this huge natural disaster. So very, very normal housed people are in trauma, and then the unhomed people are just ridiculously in trauma. And so we've been trying to make sure we at least have fatty foods and warm stuff out there and things that they need. Okay, so irrelevant. So we're out because tonight is a bad night. We went to check all of our places, put all our stuff down, and we met a young man who was just trying to get a jacket. So we had jackets with us, thank God. We'd been back to a place that we had gone to. We just got new jackets. So he collected from us whatever it was that he needed and started walking away from us, I think out of politeness, because he was very much like very grateful and was upset and couldn't get his jacket zipped. And it was like this big thing. And at the time, irrelevant to what we're going to say, but at the time I was like, Jesus, it's like 20 degrees and the wind's 40 miles an hour. And of course the guy can't get his jacket zipped. Our hands aren't working. He doesn't have his gloves on. Like, we gave him gloves. So he came back to get another one. This is where it starts to get like, hey, I need to record this. So he came back to get another jacket. Amber was at the car. We were going through stuff. We were taking turns. He comes back and says, hey, I think this jacket's not working and I can't get it zipped. I'm thinking, this poor man can't make his hands work. He actually started saying that. Amber was beside me getting more supplies, and she said to me, like, we helped him get his jacket off, we helped him get another jacket on, and then we started trying to get it zipped up. He started walking away again, and I was just like, man, this is terrible. And she said, I feel like I've been in this place exactly with that man, exactly with that moment, exactly right now. And we'll like talk about it later. We're kind of like in emergency mode. So we walked away, went to several places, finally got home and had dinner, and now we're discussing it. And I'm like, hey, we need to record this, because what I was about to say, and she can say anything she wants about her own personal experience, obviously, but what I was about to say to her, and we teach traditional skills, and so because of that, things like time warps and portals and alien grabs, like those conversations come up, like spiritual conversations. I said, tell me what you're talking about. Do you feel like it's deja vu? And she was just about to say to me, it's way bigger than deja vu. And what I was about to ask her was, in the quantum physics thought process, like it's happening right next to you, like a string, it's on a fabric, like it's a past life, like it's happening in unison, boop, 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 right in a row. We were put back in that position at that very moment in time to have that happen exactly the way it was supposed to, again, to get it right. So the guy got his jacket. Like, what was that? Because it was like dangerous. He was malfunctioning. It was so cold. And I was malfunctioning helping him. So now from her standpoint, from her vantage point, she like have her say whatever she wants to say from her vantage point. So anything I said or your description of how that just happened, do you want to add in or redo your vision of that?
Yeah, I would say that it definitely wasn't the same experience as previous deja vu experiences. It was, I could tell when the cars were going to pass by, the lights were shining in the correct areas, the paper was blowing by at the exact time, but it was like a memory, a crystal clear memory of all three of us in that exact moment. And so what I did was pick my head up and start to look around to see what was it that came next. And there wasn't anything that came next. It was really just a snapshot of that interaction of him struggling to get the yellow coat off and to get the other coat back on.
So I didn't add this point in. I'm going to ask her something about that. So the point was the point I want to ask her about, because of the way she just made that description. there was a big event that happened while that was going on where a semi truck was turning the corner and it did something and it made an explosion. I know that's something I should lead with, but frankly, it just wasn't important because this man was cold enough that he was in peril. And us helping him, we were cold enough that we were in peril and we needed to get our gear on.
Oh, I didn't even think about
So
that.
I'm asking you, do you remember that explosion happening? But no, it came
No,
after that, right?
no. So the chain of events leading up to that is that we pulled up. He was at the box, hunched down. We started getting supplies out of the car, and we called him over from the box to say, like, hey, we've got jackets, why don't you come see what we have? And as he was walking towards the car, still in his clothes, not in any of the jackets, is where we heard the noise.
Mm-hmm.
And so if I time out the chain of events there, if we had not shown up and sat there, he was already done at the box, and the direction in which he left us after the
Was the
box
car.
was to the noise.
Yeah.
And so maybe, you
It
know,
stopped
it
that?
stopped that, or it was just a like, there's pivotal moments that we experience in lives that are like path changing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't necessarily think that that was a path changing moment
For
for us necessarily, but I think that that was one of those thread jump moments
For him, maybe.
for him, maybe.
So that was the question I was going to ask you. Like I was going to say, so the kind of thing we talk about when we speak about this, we speak about it from a very physics standpoint. We'll speak about it from a spiritual standpoint. We'll speak about it from a logical standpoint. I believe in things like deja vu being scientific, and I also believe in reprinting and imprinting on land, on beings, on life, just because I've experienced it. And so I was going to say, okay, on that. So you think it was a thread? I'm asking, this is all speculative. Do you think it was a thread from before that we then wove into, and you made, or we did a different choice by keeping him there or pulling him back? Or do you think it was, like, you think it was from, like, are we steps ahead or steps behind? Or do you think it's just completely a different thread that you're remembering?
I That's a hard question to answer, but to
Like,
speculate
did we
based
jump?
off of the unweaving that happened while we were gathering those specific jackets
Yeah.
that we were
Heard.
handing to that
Heard.
person,
Oh, good call.
that and the clarity of recognition of that moment, it's like a waypoint, it's like a check mark, it's like a, yep, a confirmation
A circle around
of you're in the right spot.
at
The
the,
path has changed, that because at any moment in time, based off of not only our decisions but other decisions, there's a multitude of different threads or pathways, however you want to language it out,
mm-hmm.
that you can step into and off of, that it's one of the main channel ones. It's one of
Mm-hmm.
it's like a indication, a waypoint, a mile marker that, yep, this is
It's a,
correct.
hey, it's a benchmark.
It's a benchmark. Oh my god, it's a benchmark. That's so funny.
That's crazy. Okay, so without giving too many details out, one of the things she's referencing is how we got those jackets. So we had a weaving over the past 36 hours, 48 hours of, like, we're making transfer of supplies. Like, we're doing, like, if we show up for one thing for a give, there might be extra of something else, and then we go to another place to give the extra, and in doing that, we, like, ass up into a whole thing of new jackets. And what happens is we find out that the people giving us these jackets, which is an hour from our home, would have and did and were in the same place 30 years ago as we were, in different ways, and that we probably saw them, walked by them, touched them, and it was during times where all of us, including the people giving us the jackets, we all were in crisis of some kind, and we were all also helping people in some way. So we were receiving the care we're giving now 30 years ago, and we were giving that care 30 years ago. It just depended on who you talk to. And these people in a different state across the country were in the same exact space and moment. And I'm not talking in the same town, I'm talking in the same building.
Yeah.
Multiple times, multiple buildings, multiple places during that time. And then that's how we got those jackets to go out tonight and have the jackets for that moment. And the event that that man was experiencing was what we would have been experiencing 30 years ago. So we would have been experiencing the same kind of like the heat or the cold was getting us. We didn't have what we needed. We just needed someone to zip our jacket up for us. Like things were not working. And it was the same moment replayed with us being on the other end completely. And that's a good point. Like, did it line you up to be there at that moment? And us going to get those jackets completes like this internal cycle.
I think it's a reweaving of a fabric that had some knots in
A
it.
knot in it.
Yeah.
So so you understand. Okay, so real, I gotta tell you something about that.
Yeah.
Like I want to tell you something about what you just said. So I'm telling you guys something about what she just said too. So you guys don't know this, but we have an origin story that would account for us being weavers. And they mean weaving of light, like think physics, like weaving of a pattern that would be a quantum fabric that now we believe that string theory is outdated and we have like fabric instead. And that we just have to worry about weaving for the next spot. And if there is in fact tangles in our quantum weave is when we hit snags, fall through the holes, like all the euphemisms, all the weird things you could say about that. And today, in the conversation I had before we went out, I, during those tears, had to say, it's okay. It's no big deal. You feel unsteady because there's a tangle, and we're going to pull the tangle out and we're going to weave a new fabric. And that's how we're going to do it. And the reason you can't just tie a bow on it is because bows are not secure. You can just pull them right out. We have to just weave a new place, and tomorrow you can put your foot on that. So it feels uncomfortable because you're pulling the tangle out.
Yeah.
And it will feel comfortable eventually when we weave the new step into it. I said that right before we walked out. And so that's why it's relevant. I think that it's important that we have these discussions online and post them because there isn't forums anymore. We're not sitting around anymore having the philosopher Renaissance man conversation. We're not in community that way anymore. We're not listening to elders that way anymore. And we have to be able to sort out these big feelings and these big thoughts with people who are like-minded. And there may be people that believe in karma, but not past lives, and people who believe in past lives, but not karma, and people who believe in physics, but don't believe in string theory or quantum mechanics, like whatever the deal is, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. The ideas are something that we can wrap our heads around as far as we've experienced this. And because of that, we come to a commonality and community. And if we don't pontificate, we don't move forward and expand. And that's what life is expansion. Do you have anything that you want to say about any of this?
I just to add that, for all of the words that you used, I think that sometimes we get really caught up on the language or the identification of the language that we're using, but the broader picture here is that though, whether we're talking about quantum physics or string theory or religion or angels, they're all woven together. They all are the same languaging. We're just inept as humans to have the language that we need for all of this hasn't been created yet. And so if we focus on the ideas and the feelings rather than trying to put a specific name to it and force everybody to look at it in only this direction and only in this languaging, as we expand, we realize that there is a lot, a lot of people saying the same thing.
Yeah. And I'm just such a curious person. I wanted to hear from her. Like, I wanted to know, how did that present for her? That's why this even got started. Because I want to understand every touch we have, every expansion, every love, every act of kindness we have with a piece of land, plants, other beings, animals, humans, every time something like that happens, it creates a weave in the charge of the quantum field that is expansion and positive. Like it's a positive charge moving out.
Yeah.
And that interaction was a moment of compassion and struggle all rolled into one that we were having for each other, the three of us, including the weird truck running over something. Like it was like shock, and it was like all the emotions together in one. It was care, it was sadness, it was happiness, it was like confusion. Right. It was happening all at one moment. And maybe that's why it came together at that moment. But you were right about saying if it wasn't for the situation the time before when we got the jackets, that wouldn't have happened that way. And
Yeah.
that was an exact replay of 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, like in many ways. Okay, do you have anything else?
No.
Okay, so this is Renee and Amber, Four Element School of Traditional Medicine. On Facebook, it's the Four Element School. On TikTok, it's Four Element School or Renee Prince or Viking Woman with a Y. But we're going to go ahead and post this because I think more people need to be speaking about higher ideas.
Yeah.
Look up. We came from the stars. Bye.